Good afternoon to everybody. I hope you can see me. Thank you all for being here with us today on this special occasion. This is our second event for Artists in Conversation, a series of online webinars, lecture performances, and live streaming events that constitute the online component of our exhibition, Alive Beyond Boundaries, the Geography of Belonging, ongoing at JWD Art Space in Bangkok.
Recording in progress.
My name is Loredana Pazzini. I'm the curator of the exhibition, and today I will also be your host. First of all, I would like to acknowledge JWD unrelenting support to make this project possible, both the exhibition and the online program, despite the many challenges that we have all been facing at this time caused by the pandemic. We have opened the exhibition in Bangkok on June 1st, and we managed to stay open for the month of June and part of July. The premises are closed now as we are going through a severe third wave. While we hope to reopen as soon as it is safe to do so, to overcome the physical distance that now separates us, we have devised this online program, Artists in Conversation, which aims to bring our speakers, feature and invited artists, curators, and scholars closer to you to discuss some of the concerns that are at the core of the exhibition, such as how to define or to think about national imagery, national identity, and belonging, topics that at present are further challenged by the pandemic-induced policing of national borders and by military repressions that in various locations of Southeast Asia are gravely mining democracy. The values of democracy in contrast and in relation to the concept of national identity are actually the focus of today's event. A lecture performance by artists and activists, Tita Salina and Irwan Ahmett, who are part of the exhibition at JWD, with featuring a new video work titled When You Arrive, You'll Regret. For this online event, they will perform Apocalyptic Smile. This lecture performance derives from the artist's childhood experience of a total solar eclipse, which occurred in Indonesia on June 11, 1983.
Recording in progress.
And the government information about the eclipse itself. The eclipse was brief, but left a deep impression on Tita and Irwan, mainly because it was said that looking at the eclipse could cause blindness for the rest of their lives, thus shifting the nature of the eclipse from being a natural event to a demagogical tool for hegemonic power. Apocalyptic Smile is the artist's most recent performance. It was performed only once before today, exactly 1 year ago, at Raw Project Space in Jakarta, with the support of the Goethe Institute. At that time, it was conducted secretly, as COVID-19 prevented the event to be open to a large public. For this online event, the artists have adapted the performance for our screens. The performance itself will take approximately 45 minutes, and it will be conducted in English with Thai subtitles. For those of you who are watching the event on your Zoom, if you wish to have the Thai subtitles, please enable the show subtitle option in your live transcript button, which is at the bottom of your screen. At the end of the performance, the artist will be in conversation with curator and scholar Renan Laru-An, who will be their respondent. I will properly introduce Renan at the end of the performance before their conversation. We will be very happy to take your questions at the end of the event. Please write your questions in the chat box or notify us that you would like to intervene. We're really hoping that this will be an engaging and dynamic event for all of us. Before we start with the performance, some housekeeping rules. This talk is recorded, so you will be able to access it at a later stage if you wish to do so. It is also live streamed on Facebook. Please keep your mic on silent to minimize digital noise. Lastly, Mary, our JWD host for today, is available to assist you if you are facing any technical glitch. Please contact her on the chat box. She will briefly send a message on this note. Without further ado, let me introduce the artists with their bios before I leave the spiritual space for them to perform. Irwan Ahmett and Tita Salina are a self-taught artist duo, currently based in Jakarta, Indonesia. Their earlier works developed from the idea of placing imagination through performative interventions amid chaotic public spaces in the megalopolis Jakarta, which faces the dilemma of uncontrolled urbanization and pollution. The development of networks in art and activist circles has encouraged their artistic practice to progress towards more profound circumstances. They are currently working on a long-term project related to geopolitical turmoil in the Ring of Fire, Pacific Ring, the region most prone to natural disaster as well as traumatic consequences as caused by persistent ideological violence. They have participated in many exhibitions worldwide, such as Bangkok Art Biennale in 2020, Mori Art Museum Screen in Japan in 2016, the 5th Asian Art Biennale in Jakarta Biennale 2016, the 4th Singapore Biennale in 2013. They received grants and awards from many institutes, the Robert H. and O. Family Foundation in China, 2020, the Jakarta Goethe Institute grants in Germany, 2018, the Ford Foundation Travel Grants for exhibition in Sunderland, UK, in 2013. We will now spotlight the artist screen so that you will see on your computer or your phone devices 2 screens of the artist shown side by side. Tita and Irwan, on to you now to start your performance. Or not. You're happy.
In the last few days, I become more aware about a freedom of expression as an artist. There is some paintings or graffitis or murals in the public space right now in several cities in Java who bring the message about the reality today, crisis, lack of leadership and management. But this considering not really suits with the today identity. So of course, some people right now took over that spirit. So unfortunately, that beautiful paintings, murals, have to erase. So for me, I really like public space. Now public space is changed the colors into dark, black, or white. Before, it was more colorful. In this performance, I will inform you. Then Tita, in the next about 45 to 50 minutes, we would like try to make a graffiti, but not on the wall. This graffiti, we would like to create by our crafted into your mind. So be ready. First of all, I would like to say welcome. Welcome mutilated face by screen ratio. So this, I do hope the disinfectant aroma is capable to comfort our anxious soul.
Welcome to the world order where the smile has been lost. Apocalyptic patterns have always graced our various civilizations in humanity's long history. There are patterns formed like imaginary lines, but are evidently recorded in various mythological stories and sagas which are still influential today. Is it a question about our existence as a human species, or is it a continuing concern about our existence?
And what exactly is the purpose of our species, or maybe other species live on planet Earth?
Meanwhile, the single most complex emotions at the moment is undergoing various developments outside our boundaries as biological organs. This is manifested in the form of a smile. Smile is a paradoxical representation of human emotions. At that time, it was supposed to be a day full of smiles because June 11, 1983 was my 10th birthday.
Oh, happy late birthday.
No celebrations. My family decided to stay at home in the day like night. For a moment, smile disappeared in the dark. At that time, I only knew that if we went outside, I would go blind. Yes, blind. So the beautiful glow of corona created from ionizing gas with temperature of millions of degrees of Celsius, I could not see it. The shadow of the moon on planet Earth, like the shadow puppet, seemed to express grief on my birthday. The giant shadow path of the moon was like a huge brushwork stretching about 4,000 kilometers from Irian Jaya to Sumatra and forming a symbol opposite the smile line.
At that time, I was 8 years old, 2 years younger than her. So that time, I still believe that the Javanese mythology was behind the solar eclipse phenomenon, which happened when Batara Kala drank Tirta Amirtasari. Blup, 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 blup. When the water just passed, the water of eternity had just passed the throat, the human eating giant was decapitated by Batara Vishnu. The head was wandering around in eternity. Therefore, people should chase it away to stop it eating the sun by hitting objects like tree. Oh, there is no tree anymore in Jakarta. Or bamboo with sticks as loud as possible.
Oh, no. Because of solar eclipse, we got to see the corona, and Java got the world's attention. The superpowers like the United States, Japan, and France were sending their science researchers to here. But at that time, the power in Java was in the hands of military. The power always feels there's a calling, whether the encouragements of nationalism or the patriotism that provided security guarantee to the foreign guests.
You can see the other side of this money, the smiling generals. And in the other side, it's the progress of the development of new infrastructures in Nusantara. This is the symbol of the modern of Indonesia after the Cold War. But something happened before. There is slightly nice soundscape right now during the praying of Azan. Or called praying. So 1 year before the eclipse, exactly in the 1982, 1 year before, Mount Galunggung in West Java was erupted. The apocalypse came and the smile disappeared. The villagers that got impacted became miserable due to displacement, crop failure, food scarcity, rampant poverty, followed by the skyrocketing crime. A lot of criminal crime rate, either committed individually or collectively. Like today in the pandemic situation right now, populist politicians reach out helping hands to gain popularity. Or there were heartless people corrupted the social aid fund because we are paradoxical age, right?
So let's back to the total solar eclipse in 1983. Java was making preparations to welcome foreign scientists and tourists. In order to secure the increasing in crime, the cleaning terror was conducted mysteriously. The lifeless bodies piled up the volcano and flowing blood is like molten lava.
Slightly, I still have a little bit memory at that time. I was still a kid. Well, in the morning, in the market, or like when the people have a gathering, have the conversation, I often heard about a tattooed body was found in a sack, unidentified, floating in the river. Another story, body parts were found on the coast, eaten by stray dogs, just like the heading of Batara Kala. This sadistic story is retold like a viral by word on mouths to complete with the myth and the ghosts of criminals wandering around. No matter how horror it was, people try to listen and it's with patience. So the story were ended follow with a strange expression on the listener's face. Thing, it looks like apocalyptic smile.
The brutal terror was effective in causing fear, of course. Tattoos become synonymous with criminals. So people who had tattoos were busy removing them with caustic soda, chemical liquid, or hot iron. The aesthetics of the Brahmokara or recidivists are sometimes beyond our imaginations.
Okay, in terms of propaganda communication, this is specifically for the total solar eclipse in the 1983. It could be New Order's greatest hoax production, of course, after the massacre of 1965, right?
Yeah. This is some newspapers headlines from 1983. Looking directly at the solar eclipse can make you blind. When the eclipse occurs, criminals increase their crime. Around 46.5 million are threatened with blindness. The experts are confused to find the locations. This is really strange title. Do you understand what it means, like a location?
So from our findings, this like massive document, right?
It's all handwritten.
No. There were actually numbers of like information or science-based literature related to the impact of the eclipse at the time, like maybe from the scientific or from like academics or even journalist approach. But why unverified information is more acceptable?
Well, actually, the human brain often ignores information that has nothing to do with urgency. For example, currently, today, Saturday, August 14, 2021, the total number of people infected with the coronavirus in Indonesia only is 3,804,943. And the total death rate is 115,096, with the daily death rate is above 1,400 people. This information per day, daily rate, yeah. So this information is received by our brain, but then how does our body respond to it? Do we respond to this tragic loss with great grief, or there's no more space for reality? So we choose to ignore it instead.
I mean, back to the eclipse, it's talking about the past reality, but what happens when an eclipse occurs. The city is dead. The airport is stopped. All engines in the factory are turned off. School and offices are dismissed. The church bell is clanging loudly. Prayer from loudspeakers are alarming, like today, like what we are here right now. Air bombs are detonated. Boom, 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 boom. Pregnant women hide behind cots. Trees and branches are beaten. Chris is raised up to the sky. Scientists applaud, celebrating. And the Japanese scientists reflectively shouting, "Banzai!"
I will never be able to see the beautiful of Corona glow on Java again because the next total solar eclipse will occur in 351 years.
That's beyond human age.
I don't know. I think at that time I will be a tree. I'll become a tree.
I become a fossil.
Fossil. Yeah. Like some scientists in the future found us a skeleton. Anyway, well, will Indonesia and its spirit of blind nationalism still smolder? And will Homo sapiens still be able to smile?
It's like 3.5 centuries, like how we occupy by the European, right?
Yeah, true. Same period.
It means hello.
That means stay away.
As a chimpanzee or orangutan, no, of course, as an artist, we get used to living on journeys. But to face the reality of having to stay at homes, like what we are doing right now, feels like flashing back to the apocalyptic memories of the eclipse 38 years ago. At first, we intended to do observation of a large primate, such as orangutan, which is increasingly being pushed out of its habitat in Kalimantan. Orangutan is the only great ape left in Asia, and that has 97% DNA similarity to human. That's incredible. It's almost like our cousin, right? Yeah. But coronavirus interrupted us. We cannot go there because we could spread the virus to them or vice versa. But instead we go into the Kalimantan, we have to shift this research into our domestic living. Stay at home for 2 years. It turned out to be months staying at our home, bringing our encounter with another superior species other than Homo sapiens. I wonder if ants smile. It's too tiny. Their eyes looks big here, but the eyesight don't work well. Ants almost blind. They only use kind of pheromones or hormones to navigate. You can see here, most of their heads are muscles with deadly bites. In contrast to our face, who don't have a natural self-defense system. The biological nature of ants can chop off prey larger than their bodies.
In this world, there are about 12,000 ant species dominated by female. This species has genetically specific traits such as mastering warfare,
colonizing,
kidnap enemies,
border patrols,
looking for resources,
running slavery,
building complicated architecture,
raising livestock farming,
building empires,
doing group killings,
did not hesitate to cut off enemy's head,
and it's incredibly having precise daycare management
and
from
thousands of ant eggs, not single one was left stranded. Incredible.
you can see this is the beautiful amber rocks are also called tear of the sun. It's beautiful.
It is like Raden Saleh romanticism paintings. The battle of life and death between two species, ants and termites, that has been frozen in beauty for 90 million years.
It's incredible, and I feel guilty because I'm stay here in my home for almost 10 years, but I always ignore the existence of the superior species. Sometimes I also enjoy to kill this because they attack my food, for example. But now I do. I'm really respect to this magnificent creatures. But to see this painting and also the capacity of the ants to do like aggressive attack make me think that I'm suspicious. Not only as an ant but as a human. Are we the species that could enjoy the beauty of the death of other species? I have a big concern that if the purpose of species life is to kill each other. In my yard, there is about 3 colonies of dominant ant species. They work and fight 24 hours, scrambling for leftovers, no democracy, taking care of the queen's eggs. The ant lifespan is around 3 or 6 months in average, or maybe even less. They will die tragically, usually due to fatigue, too many work, and maybe their life just expired. Unfortunate species. Ants' lives are just for work, work, and work.
The ants run a large colony without orders or doctrines. Their biological obedience is both terrifying and at the same time, it is the most absolute collective force. So the queen's job is only reproduction. Males are needed to fertilize, but then they die. The dominant ant colony will give birth to other dominant colonies. suggests the political dynasty pattern of elite power in Southeast Asian countries.
I don't know. So, or political dynasty 4.0 maybe. So during the pandemic, I did an experiment to separate one ant from its colony.
Where is this? Oh, this is.
In just a few hours later, it immediately appeared confused. Look still, lost, and looks depressed. I'm thinking to give this ant name. So for the all audience who suggest the name for these cute ants, just send the text. But only expire for 3 months. Yeah. After that, the name goes away to heaven.
So the self-sacrifice of an ant can be very extreme sometimes. For example, the Colobopsis explodens. This is a species originated from Kalimantan. It could blow up its body to kill an opponent.
It's like suicide for me. And it's a bit like extremist act. So what drives its altruism? It's so extreme, just to explode and kill.
Yeah. And how does this ant deal with the pain? Did it have a sense? I don't know. But let's go to the place of the death seekers.
This is a story about the death seekers. When Elon Musk began his career on space travel in US in the early 90s, in the far east, far east, there was a 20-year-old man from western tip of Java. This time, choose to affirm his faith toward heavens in hail of bullets, mortar explosions, and the intimacy with death in Snow Valley of Afghanistan. You can see with his
one is
lips or smile.
Yeah.
He's not like a big guy. His small body become like a focal point of the battle of interest between United States and Soviet Union at the time, through militancy groups sprung up after the collapse of Ottoman Empire.
I would like to show you this guy's journey. Where is Indonesia? Oh, here.
Where is Jakarta? Jakarta sinking. Huh?
Yeah, it's gone.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So he confessed he got like self-radicalized through books or any kind of information. But within this match, we would like to tell a story how he crossed from Java to the Snow Valley coast in Afghanistan. First, he drove cars from Java crossing Sunda Straits, goes up to the north until he arrives in Bengkalis, small island.
Across Singapore, yeah, it's
opposite Singapore. And Bengkalis right now has become like a monoculture place to grow palm oil or maybe acacia for pulp. And from Bengkalis, that he crossed Strait of Malacca, one of the busiest straits in Asia, and then going to Malacca city and took a flight. So he flew from Malacca to Mumbai in India, perhaps just only a transit, and then it's not, and yet from Mumbai, he continued travel to Kabul. And finally, he took about maybe a few days by cars, secretly going to the Death Valley. The name of area is Kos, near Kandahar.
So how can radical cells spread like a virus? The state law and the constitutions as the basis for upholding the pillars of nationalism, which he called colonial products, seems didn't fulfill his deepest desire.
His love of death was revealed in his book, which was decorated with the victims of massacres in Palestine, Afghanistan, conflict horizontal religious in Poso and Ambon, some image from Iraq, and photos of the scandal of torture of Abu Ghraib prison by American soldiers. So injustice had made his perspective on religion as an expression of a cosmic struggle between good and evil. No other space for the other ideology.
In the colonial period of reformulation of jihad doctrine, it had a more clearer context, like Muslim resistance living under the pressure of a non-Muslim government system. So the essence is still reflected on 212 actions at Monas in Jakarta in 2016. After the horrific of Bali bombings in 2002, the war against foreign symbols turned into sporadic attacks and state institutions. These nations must pay for it, not with the mysterious shots anymore, just like 38 years ago, but with the open shots completed with uniforms and unlimited budgets.
So his book is banned because it's considered as a guide for young jihadists. The 280-page note is decorated consistently with symbol like this. Just too small, but you can see on the screen. And a lot of funny story. Of course, there is some like dangerous brainwash message inside, but overall, we cannot get this book anymore outside. Even he mentioned about technology to do hijack, or maybe to hijack the internet. But at the time, he gave a tutorial to teach hackers using Internet Explorer. So which means this technology is already extinct, right? But the ideology is not. It's still there.
Yeah, and actually in this book, we found around 18 smiley emoticons, like on the screen. So Imam Samudra, his name, he is a devout Muslim. He memorized Pancasila, our national philosophy, as well as a cold-blooded killer with a deadly smile.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
So there is one page is dedicated to quoting President Bush with a chimpanzee. Yeah, I don't have to mention it anymore. And Irwan actually has one habit of collecting post-mortem photos of suicide bombers or extremists.
Yeah, I mean, from this image, you can see the spread of like the ground zero of the explosion, and it's almost like spider going through everywhere. This is like represent could be some purpose of life of some person, but also some unexpected life for another person. But to be honest, there is many speculation when the dead body found on the ground zero. And the people have different kind of perception. Of course, people curse it, but it's a lot of people also believe that people achieve the aim to go to heavenly with smile.
So you said that it's not a political, it's not a suicide bomb, so it should be a martyr bomb. Right?
Sorry.
Wait, could you help me interpret their last expressions? Is it a gesture of hellish pain or heavenly smile?
This chemicals on this instant photo is terrible.
So the neurons in the brain underwent a severe shock when 7 million years ago, the ancestors of Homo sapiens decided to get off the tree and start walking upright, as bipedal, and facing the threat of an unseen predator. In the vast savanna, if the grass shakes, the hominins must be able to distinguish whether it is a rustle of wind or a lion ready to prey them. The nature of being on guard and realizing that there are other forces beyond the power of our body are suspected of being the origins of brain cell mutations to build space for the concept of belief or religions.
Until now, we haven't made the time to do a research on spiritual space in large primate cultures, such as orangutan. But there are studies on chimpanzees related to the origin of religion.
The group of chimpanzees, as well as monkey, Macaca fascicularis.
In the North Jakarta, we still have like
the
two groups
hill.
or maybe two colonies.
Two or three colonies.
And they like constantly have a conflict and war.
Yeah, but sadly they start eating the humans' food. It's not healthy for them. In their natural habitat, at certain times, usually after the breakfast, some of them become quieter. They give each other strokes as if they're sharing love. And so there is a moment to place themselves in peaceful social coordinates.
So one other hypothesis, when there was a huge storm in the forest, it's like climate change, the most charismatic alpha male teams would try to drive out lightning, boom, drive out of the death. It would scream facing the sky, challenging the storm by issuing a furious threat to the creator of the disaster. The alpha would get more appreciation from the other females from his groups because he is considered to have spatial authority to negotiate with the fate of his groups with the unseen power or God. Okay, we don't know what this act could form their minds. And we never know what is in Tim's mind. Tim's language is like what I did before. But this could be a strong foundation to form a solid structures, such as a patterns of religious structures, or even the political party.
So this is a story about a smile in a cry. Her name is Sister Lang. She fled from Vietnam during the Civil War, and then she settled in the country of the rising sun. She felt very emotional when she lost her friend, Mr. Huang, a fellow refugee. The poor man was unable to continue living in the midst of Japanese modernizations.
Days by days, he became weaker and weaker. One day when I went to Tokyo for sell some things, he killed himself. He kills himself, isn't it? Jesus,
suicide,
isn't it?
isn't it? Right.
I don't believe. I don't believe. When I hear this news from Sato, because that time I was in Tokyo. I didn't believe that. When I came back here, I see her, I see him. Yes, I was so sadly. Yes. At that time, I cannot wait to his room. Yes. But up to now, I usually pray him. But today I meet you. I'm very happy because I have a chance to think about once again. And I think I pray for him more and more. I'm sorry.
Mừng Chúa yêu thương trời đến muôn ngàn
Mr. Juan
thương Chúa ta đi
ended his life
Trần
by
Hoàng ơi
burning
ca lên
himself.
Triều thần ơi ca
Is there any pain?
ca lên đi mọi thế nhân qua dòng thời gian mừng Chúa yêu thương trần gian đến muôn ngàn đời ca lên đi chúng Chúa ca đi hiền.
Linguistic.
The cognitive abilities developed rapidly as stone tools were used in daily life. So to set a fire, to go hunting and killing become more effective. Did the last Java man smile when facing his death 200,000 years ago? We never know. But to see the beautiful work of the agate stone axes made by Homo erectus, we can interpret the ability of early humans processing their spectrum of feelings.
This is the beautiful piece of art for me, created by species before us. Was their extinction due to a pandemic, virus, bacteria, or any kind of small creatures that we cannot see? Or because of the climate change? At the time, there is unstable condition due to volcanoes, eruption, landslide, or maybe like a huge earthquake create another different kind of circumstances on the nature. But what if they extinct, it come from as a result of the combination of two, climate change and pandemic. So the cognitive ability to form symmetry, it's our skill. it's like a more complex skills, because these two represent as an aesthetic articulation has marked the first culture of our ancestors after they come out of Africa. The arrowheads from the Mesolithic era found in Java are almost perfectly symmetrical like the pointer cursor on our computer screen that's running around, hunting for online shopping discounts.
The imaginations of Indonesia's territory on the equator is heavily influenced by the narrative of territorial claims in the era of the Majapahit Empire, it's 13th to 16th of century.
I have small kids here.
Magic kit.
The Majapahit kingdom, it's kind of the early imagination of our nation, let's say Indonesia. But to see what they are produced, it's like reflecting the articulation of artistic or aesthetic in Nusantara.
Cute.
The cute,
Smile.
smiling kids or boy, but the head, there is a hole in head.
I don't know whether it's accident or in purpose they made the hole.
And the other side, you see the mask, right?
Yeah. So this is the mask, which was found in a stone grave during the Bronze Age in East Java.
And smile mask.
Yeah. And it's thought to have been used to cover the face of the dead. An offering of a smile of immortality when entering another realm or to negotiate with the god for too many sins committed. And you see another one.
Yeah.
And
this is another terracotta.
yeah, this is.
Great. But again, the kingdom is already gone. But again, the smile is forever.
Yeah. So somehow it is believed from the Majapahit era. It is conveying the reflections of the fall of the greatest empire in Nusantara through a funny smile.
Is he or she smiling to you?
Please smile back to the statue.
Or maybe this is like decapitated sculpture.
In pre-Islamic Java was heavily influenced by Hindu culture from India, but Semar, this is a unique figure. It's specifically created in Java, and Semar has a very specific expressions. You can see there is a smile, but also a cry from his eyes. His skin is as dark as the night sky, but look at his face. His face is as white as the moon. Semar is male figure, but he has dress.
Smar's body is a disguise. Smar, it's actually a knight, a very good knight. In one chronicle, he shows his true physics. I was surprised. I thought he had a muscular figure like American or Japanese superheroes. But in fact, Smar was actually a fat man. A fat man, but very handsome. Fat people can be handsome, can they?
Of course. Look at him.
Yeah, so, but I'm afraid the imagination of people in archipelago now projecting the image of Samar, it's too similar to the most rich of biodiversity island, it's Kalimantan. And this is kind of very sad story because in the fact, Samar looks very similar to the islands who very rich and with the natural resource as well. But if I looking from what happened in that island, it's Samar, it looks like more skinny, and looks smart, got cancer. We can see right now there is a red, that indication how massive deforestation, palm oil, but also extract mining. And don't forget, Indonesia will move the capital to Kalimantan. It's announced last year. So again, the idea of hegemony of Java, there will be reach out to the most, I don't know, the richest, or maybe the orangutan homes. We will colonize this island soon. And soon, the green colors will change into a dying island. The smile spectrum has no parameters. It's very hard. I mean, for some politician or even to top level government, like maybe the president of Russia, or maybe the prime minister of Japan, or the king in other part of Southeast Asia, smile is a very problematic because for that, the context in smile, it's a very important. If you can see here, it seems that the sins of corruptors can be erased with a smile. In the other part of the world, a smile can be a non-violent action against the tyranny of power.
The smile as a result of a complex biological work, it can be modified perfectly through plastic surgery. As we also know, the accuracy of facial recognition is getting more and more perfect. And smiles are no longer exclusive to humans. The humanoids are starting to have a complex emotional expressions, even though they still look creepy to me. This is the mechanical structures of the most sophisticated sex doll today, and it has a very beautiful name. Its name is Solana.
Solana, slightly different from Salina. Salina, Solana, Solana, Salina. But of course, Salina's smile, it's much prettier than Solana. Although, maybe in the next few decades, not far from today, they will come a time when machines have a more perfect smile than humans. But wait a minute, I have a surprise to make your smile even bigger.
Okay.
So because Tita didn't celebrate her birthday 38 years ago, so for that, I will give a present from the ancient period. Necklace made by hunter-gatherers from special rocks, and also it's again the reflection of one you reach to the civilization, and there is time come we will extinct.
Okay. Oh, okay. So this is a gift or?
Of course.
Well, thank you anyway. That's beautiful. Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Let's go back to human traits. We, Tita, and all of us, except my cats, we are Homo sapiens, do not have physical weapons such as sting, venom like snake, claws like tigers, or sub-fangs like lions. But why? Is the tragedy of human history, especially in Southeast Asia, or maybe in other parts of the world, are so bloody?
Well, do humans really have natural tools in their bodies to prevent the urge to kill one another or against other species? So then why is feeling guilty is not enough?
Now, we are approaching the end of the event. What happened today, given the economic collapse? Economic collapse has been prolonged. The virus mutations are increasingly worrying. And for the first time, our civilization are entering a dangerous era of climate crisis that is widespread, rapid, and intensifying. Therefore, let's do exercise together before the apocalypse comes. The exercise together about what is apocalyptic smile and how to practice.
So, to all of you on this screen, could you please follow my instructions?
Slowly but surely.
Together, we are going to see the most personal and important moments in human civilizations. I'm going to start now. So first, please adjust your screen brightness to the lowest until it's totally dark and you cannot see us. Do it slowly. And please don't leave the room. We're not finished yet. And make
Mobile phone
sure,
as well.
yeah. It's applied to all laptop, computers, desktop, monitors, or handphones. So make sure you still can hear my voice. And then find your reflections on the screen. It doesn't matter if the space you are at now is bright or dark. You still can find your reflections. Next step now is just between you and yourself. If you see it, your reflections, then you are ready to exercise your smile now. I will give you 10 seconds count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now slowly adjust your screen brightness back to the normal level you are used to. And so the exercise ends. My name is Tita Salina.
My name is Irwan Ahmett.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much, Tita and Irwan, for this amazing opportunity to witness, be present with you for this performance. For those of you who have joined a little bit later, this is Tita's and Irwan most recent performance. They've only performed this Apocalyptic Smile once before, 1 year ago exactly, in Jakarta at Raw Project, and with the support of the Goethe Institute. And at that time, because it was during the pandemic, it was kept secretly and not open to a wider audience. Today, this event has been adapted by the artists for us on the screens, and I'm really very grateful for this opportunity. I would like to introduce now with us curator and scholar Renan Laru-An, who will be in conversation with the artist. And let me introduce him properly. Renan is a researcher based in Sultan Kudarat, the Philippines. He creates exhibitionary, public, and research programs that study insufficient or subtracted images or subjects at the juncture of development and integration projects. Current ongoing projects include But Here Have No Leads, 2021, and Promising Arrivals, Violent Departures, 2018. Since 2017, he is the Public Engagement and Artistic Formation Coordinator of the Philippine Contemporary Art Network. Renan is co-curator of the second Biennale Matter of Art 2022, Prague, and has co-curated the 6th Singapore Biennale in 2019, the 8th OK Video Indonesia Media Arts Festival in 2017, and the first Lakban Assembly in 2015. He is curatorial advisor for the 58th Canada International 2022 in Pittsburgh. Please, Renan, join our screen. I see you there now. So on to you to give us some insights and your viewpoints on the performance.
Thank you so much, Loredana. And thank you so much, Irwan and Tita, for inviting us to reflect on our smiles on a weekend. So that was such rich and complex kind of layering of stories and thoughts and possibilities, which all generate and emerge from the smile. So that was very interesting, and I think we have now a very different relationship with emoticon. You know, the way you were saying how the emoticon was kind of punctuating the extremist work, but also at the same time, it was a lovely conclusion to invite us to do an exercise. The gesture of exercising smile during an unprecedented crisis of reunion and crisis of union is such a visceral kind of experience, you know, for it to be the other person, the thing that you're viewing invites you to exercise smile. And I think one of the first nodes that I'd like to unpack perhaps, or I'd like to invite also participants to this event to think about is the focus on face, the focus on face and all the things that are happening on the face, which, as you mentioned, and as we all experience, are covered right now. And it was actually also very interesting how we can look into the history of illustration and history of drawing, perhaps, in terms of what set us apart in terms of depicting other species. And it was interesting, of course, in art history, how this kind of movement via smile, via cry, was possible, and that was a kind of an interesting moment in terms of thinking about figures and figuration. Um, and there's a lot of things to discuss here, but I think I wanted to invite you, perhaps, in terms of the different smiles that was enumerated. You have the smile of the dead, the smile of the apocalypse, the smile of survivor, and of course the smile of extremism, which can also be the smile of torture. Um, so at this moment, I think that there was also an invitation about invention of smiles. You also said at the beginning of your lecture performance, this possibility of creating gravity, creating gravitas, for example. And smile is such um, an amazing feature of a human face, because it marks whatever it surrounds, you know. So, and also at the same time, it's a marking of an environment, no? So it's not just a gesture, or it's not also just biological, but almost proposing that we can invent smile. Um, so yeah, so maybe we could discuss about this idea of invention, and also of course there's a question that you posed, and you've been consistent with this question, and also in your other projects, in terms of that tool that human has, um, in terms of its social living, that it's a very provocative um, question about how can we actually live with other people. So the invention, and even the invention of fire you mentioned. So perhaps um, we can think about how do we actually invent smile beyond this very neoliberal kind of demand to just smile in spite of everything. So what is invention of smile from an artistic point of view?
Yeah. Sorry. Wait a minute. How about now? It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I see
Sounds
your
good.
face a smile when when trouble happened. So it's a bit like more into the spectrum of feelings that we have. I mean, if we see that from humans, or maybe culture, it's slightly quite a bit different. For example, when I was in Japan, and too much smiling, it's like mocking people. Like you are not serious, and maybe the person it's think I'm funny. So to keep like face cold as possible, it's better than smiling all the time. So this is kind of a readjustment of our feelings when we travel, and it's kind of bring us to the more deep question about the relation, contextual, but also because of this pandemic, we adopt, let's say, 5 cats, but we cannot smile to them. So, but which means it could be smiling. What from the monkey, for example, the texture of greens, or like even triton, it's almost like this, right? So smirking. So maybe I still don't know yet what is the fundamental motivation to triggering people make smile. But at least right now it's the best, or maybe the effective answer for a very difficult question. Like, do we survive next year? Smile. I mean, Of course, we can angry, but smile. It's like sometimes there is the imagination of relief, but also hopes, but a bit like scary because you are. I mean, because I'm not have any power anymore to control the situation. I mean, just the scale is too large, and our position right now it's almost like maybe in the lowest point. Yeah. And based on our walk in northern or part of Jakarta, I have to observe many kind of different kind of society, from the rich, super rich, mega rich, to the super poor, right? And it's only 1 kilometer distance. I mean, the huge gap of the poverty now it's getting higher and higher. But surprisingly, smile it's much more easier to find in the lower class than to the higher class. I need to be like further research what in effect of this behavior. That be my own opinion. Of course, if we're talking about the most visited painting in the world, it's like the smile of Mona Lisa, right? Before COVID, it's like attract millions from around the world just to see the oil paintings with the mysterious smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you answered everything.
You smile.
That's the smile. This is a paradox.
Yeah, the paradoxical representation of human emotion, as you mentioned, but perhaps it's also the paradoxical representation of
Hold on, Renan, please. Yeah, we cannot hear your voice. Maybe okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying that, as you said, it's the paradoxical representation of human emotion, but perhaps it's also the paradoxical representation of, the human condition. And I think I wanted to guide our viewers whose smiles we don't see, to look into perhaps the two nodes that you shared. One is when you were discussing this kind of relationship of smile and blindness. And what's interesting about this one is a kind of a story of suspended romance between the eyes and the lips, for example. The second one, I think, which is also very interesting and also on another spectrum of romance and radicalized romance is with Imam Samudra's book that he published, in which it was littered with um, a good number of smile emoticons. Um, and what's also very interesting, I guess, is how smile is a kind of, you can close it, you can open it um, more, but it's a kind of it contains the organ of speech and voice and to express something, to deepen your expression, to explain and articulate yourself. Um, and I think the Imam Samudra example is a very interesting example of reinventing smile. If you think about the history of smiles that perhaps this Imam who was radicalized has been through, he wanted to produce his own kind of smile that he can associate with. Um, so I wonder what can we actually think about, or what can we reflect, what can we gather from this perverse invention of smiles from romance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult answer, but what I can respond about Imam Samudra, that he kind of a quite special person. I think his IQ is like very this level. Yeah, it's like maybe this my level, and he's like this. Maybe genius, because he wrote on his book that he even memorized all the notes, the name of the store in his childhood. So which means he have a very good capacity to photograph memory. But this capability, it's a very difficult or challenging when switch into something or something extreme, right? Perhaps what I'm really try to understand beyond his mind, that he feel his act is fully right with some very solid argument from his side. Of course, he can also influence people directly, but in the same time, he want to declare to the public that I'm okay. He's like Imam Samudra really enjoy as the figure of the center point from around the world. Right? So in the middle of the court, or even like interview with the media, he showed his capability. Even he spoke English, even a very less, but he tried to elaborate. So which means in his position, if I really going deep to the ideology behind extremists, it's, I mean, I'm not support the extremists, of course, but it's more promising than nationalism. So nationalism is a very kind of, it's lack of goodwill and even very close to the corrupt mentality, right? But extremism, it's more clear mission. It's like go to that point, whatever, you can find a way, and when you achieve, you go to heaven. But of course, in the act, this is like brutal and it's like inhuman. But if we compare this ideology, to be honest, they have much better argument. That's why, I mean, identity right now, it's on the high level point in Indonesia, especially after the conservative going to the street, and a lot more politicians also start to play with the identity. Now the nationalists try to like navigate to different direction. By what? By killing. So women, but they use the uniform and love, right? So this is kind of maybe Smile. It's kind of
It's like a cover, maybe.
it's like cover for everything. It's like cover for a winner, for a loser, for hopes, less. So and especially it's like spread out to Australia, because I have to sorry to hear about it. Many of the victims in the Bali bombing has come from Australia, and they are very shocked when they saw all the three of terrorists, all the faces smile. I mean, they have even a special name like smiling terrorists, right? Because again, it's about delivering the message. Maybe this is kind of the early of propaganda. But if we compare in the kind of the struggling, even like revolution or extreme movement, or what happened right now in Afghanistan with the rise of Taliban, I mean, this is kind of, that's the story of human, the story of smiling, but also blood. Or even maybe, I heard, maybe it's wrong, but I hope you could respond about this. What happened in Philippines, the public shooting actually inspired, but the same event in Indonesia in the 1980s, right? Due to the like drug dealers or the criminals. Yeah, so this is like maybe Smile, it's a very effective and efficient mask to negotiate with the reality.
Yeah, I think that's a good term. Like Smile is like the really perfect mask to hide the reality, because yeah, we know, like from the samples that we show to all of you today, like really mixed, how do you say, like mixed meaning about the smile. That's also beside Imam Samudra, the other important smile is from Suharto, the general smiling. Even this is become like really popular nicknames of Suharto. So Suharto, the smiling general. So I don't know. Me personally, also, I still need to look for what's the meaning of the smile, because I think for now, I agree with Irwan said that smile is like a mask to hide the reality, or to hide some things behind.
But I
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
underestimate smile. It's really
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like
It could be
smart.
deadly.
but yeah, and I think the mnemonic device that you showed us, smile, sun, morning, inclusion, linguistic, and exercise. It's there's something very tongue in cheek on that, but also at the same time, um, it's it's not a proposal per se, but I think it's a way of mapping. You know, it's a way of mapping where we're at in terms of smile. Smile as something that we carry as a mass, for example. But I wanted to just briefly, I think, highlight what you said. I think the phenomenon of looking directly at the sun, right, and how smile had been lost, for example, from Java, because we or you have never really looked directly at the sun, especially at that moment of a total solar eclipse, right? And I think this is a very interesting kind of um, supernatural phenomenon that we can think about as well. In the midst of all the explanation, in the midst of all the kind of analytical devices that we have, of course, you know, we can definitely unpack what smile is, its meaning, its politics. But I think it's also something interesting that I wanted to touch upon is this kind of, you know, magnitude of sun, and kind of losing the chance of um, facing the sun. I'm saying all of this because from your performance, it was kind of interesting actually to reflect on perhaps the fact that, you know, maybe we've never really seen each other face to face, you know, and this kind of epidemiological moment right now um, kind of allows us to step back and question whether or not we really we've really seen the face of our loved ones, you know. And I think I'm saying all of this because of this idea of looking directly at the sun and the kind of feeling your face. And when the sun hits your face, you kind of realize and recognize that you have a face, right? That, you know, your face is, you know, pumping blood. And I think it ties back to the kind of subjectivity and kind of uh, almost spiritual experience that extremists would have, right? You mentioned that, you know, there's a clarity to it, and it seems that regardless how genuine the mask or authentic the faces they've seen, it seems that they have seen actually the other faces, and that's why they're very clear with their mission. Um, yeah, so I'm just, you know, kind of reflecting on all of these, and what does it actually mean when we have covered the sun? What if, you know, at one point, you know, there's a total darkness? What does actually sun for you in this kind of mnemonic device of sun, morning, inclusion, linguistic exercise? What happens if there's no sun anymore? And that was an interesting exercise as well when, you know, we dim our screen and we can hardly see our faces, you know. So sun, this brightness.
Can you hear my voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, sun, it's like the first letter from S, right? So also the style like SMILE, it's kind of the 80s style when we wrote like some others memories from our friends and etc. So we still use that kind of approach to imagine the smile, looking back to that era. But yeah, I think it's really agree. Sun, it's kind of the, for me, it's like arrogant planet. Because you just send directly everything to all the universe, right? But we cannot send it back. I don't know in the future, but this is kind of one way communication all the time. So and because of that, and suddenly like it's almost like a huge stars of dictatorship, right? And you can negotiate with this. Of course, we have like, so the only things to see like from, let's say, a temporary when another nature phenomena covering the sun, but it's not forever. Solar eclipse, just a few minutes or maybe an hour, or like the night. It looks like dark, but it's not, because we can still see the moon or stars. It's, I mean, sun. It's always try to find a way to reach us.
Selfish.
Yeah, selfish, selfish star. But what happened to us in the dark? I would like to reflect our findings on research about primates during the eclipse in 1983. So there is two primates at the time. One primate they put near the Borobudur temple, right? A very magnificent megalithic buildings, architectures, and this monitors all the time. And when the day getting dark, this animal it's become more like bit anxious, because the biological coding or the biological nature, it's a bit like confusing. But the most interesting part for me, this is another research they did in the forest. So which means the monkey like real in the nature habitats, no human intervention. And what happened? What happens when the dark during the eclipse? They're having sex a lot. So which means the dark, it's like stimulate the very basic of animal instincts in our condition, because we lack of sensory capability as human being. So that's why in the early period of the lockdown in Indonesia, the most make government worry, it's not the death, but the new baby will born in unimaginable numbers. So which means dark, it could stimulate the instinct, deep instinct of animal side in us, because we cannot use all our capability in the proper way. But I think this question only could work to us. We have to maybe respect other people who, let's say, blind since the born or since they're born, right? Yeah. So maybe they also have a different kind of definition about the dark and sun.
I think I would like to take back my word about saying that the sun is selfish. Because probably it is not, because of the sun, the Homo sapiens exists now, and maybe because the sun now, the ray of the sun, it has like a perfect temperature, lightning the earth, so a lot
Life.
Yeah, a lot of lights. And also I don't know, I have to check out, maybe on this period of time, we have the richest, how to say,
Highest temperatures.
the richest flora and fauna, because we have a perfect temperature of the sun. Maybe perhaps the Homo erectus, the species before us, when they're extinct, or during that time, perhaps the temperature of the sun is not the same as today. So yeah, what I'm going to say is, but this is like the time scale is not a human time scale. So human lifespan is only 60 to 70 years old, or sometimes 80. So we cannot have the time to see the differences between generations, for example. So although now we are reaching the temperature is getting higher and higher because of the climate crisis, I think, I don't know, the next 2 or 3 generations, perhaps they would blame the sun because the sun rays too hot to the earth.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think those are the things that perhaps we can take on and reflect over this weekend. And just before, I guess, I pass it on to Loredana for questions from the audience. I think I just wanted to leave what an interesting title. And I think Apocalyptic Smile is an invitation as well to think about scales. You know, apocalypse and smile have 2 different, very different scales. They lie at, you know, a different end of the spectrum, perhaps. And what it does, actually, this pairing of apocalypse and smile, is that it extinguishes the kind of classical pairing of smile and brightness, you know. And I think that's an amazing, it carries a magnitude in terms of dissociating smile with brightness, and perhaps all smiles are apocalyptic. So thank you, Irwan and Tita, for engaging with me. I'll pass it on to Loredana for questions from the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renan.
Thank you all. Actually, it's been really fascinating, the performance, and now listening to your elaboration, Renan, on the key points of this performance. I like very much what you said, is suspended romance between the eyes that cannot see and the facial features of the smile. And actually, if I can just add my personal remark for Tita and Irwan, is that of course, smile is the way you have elaborated it becomes, you made us really reflect on the power of the smile. But how you entered to the topic of the smile is very interesting. So you went from the solar eclipse, and so the loss of sight, or at least what was the propaganda of the government at that time, to the use of the smile as almost as an alternative to relate to the body, to one's own body, and in a way also the ownership of our body, if it's the last thing that we can own at all. So I thought this was fascinating, and we have a few questions. Actually, I think I just seeing Tita responding to Lily. Was that your response, Tita? So the question is, how long, from Lily to, how long have you harbored this fascination with the smile, and how long was it to develop this work?
You wrote that. Yeah, so actually that's Irwan's writings, but yeah, I try to answer. So yeah, it's around 3 years. We are
Residency program.
Yeah, at that time we have the residency programs in Central Java, but actually about the smile, topics. It's how do you say? It start to get to be interesting to us when we travel. When we did the travel quite a lot, and especially when we travel to the west side of the world, which is like the Western. There we didn't find smile. So this is kind of like a very, how to say, contrast, if I may say, like a very contrast gesture from what we have here in Southeast Asia, where people here are more relaxed and easy to smile, easy to make humors, and easy to laugh ourselves. But when we did a residency for a few times in Europe, it is totally different because, and also if we laugh or if we smile, it gets a totally different meaning. So that's really interests us, that how this simple gesture could make really how to say, contrast meaning. But for the Apocalyptic Smile, yeah, 3 years, more or less 3 years, we worked on these projects.
And as I mentioned, and Renan mentioned this also, that this sits very well within your ongoing research in the Ring of Fire and the different, you know, as a geography, but also as a geopolitical entity, right? So your approach to your research takes different angles, and I suppose the smile is one of those angles for you to look at the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, this like a developed very slowly. So actually first presentation, it was around 2018. It's very brief talk in Berlin. Yeah, I still remember because we want to see this kind of gestures in the different cultures. But it got quite good response. So we start to write and then think to going deep, not only our existence, but also in the geological scale. And then we get a chance to develop more. For example, to see the site, what it looks like Java 10 million years ago. So when still like part of island, it's a sea, a shallow sea. So this is kind of very slow process by looking at of the planet for us living, and how unique we are with this gesture, but also how vulnerable our condition right now. So, but to answer to asking this smile, it's very difficult to us to humans, because humans is a very powerful weapon. It's lying. So that's why we would like to ask to do this observation to, let's say, another primates, like a monkey or orangutan or chimpanzee. So maybe there is like more our archaic attitude still remain there.
Yeah, and then you brought in the ants to see whether they are able to smile, and there was an irony there, but it was a very interesting connection with another scale of animals. I mean, from the primates to the tiniest, or one of the smallest animals. I don't know, I'm not a biologist, but to see that, and then the structures of power. So that was for me very, very interesting. There is one other comment from the audience, and I don't know if that is a question, Quen Pham from Vietnam, about your video with the Vietnamese nun and the smile. I think that was in relation to pain and smile. Would you add anything on that while you use that particular video piece?
Yeah, that's kind of the first research for our project in Japan. So we didn't expect, when we had a discussion with her, Sister Lang, and to true story about her life since the beginning that she sailed from Vietnam, right, and rejected from other countries. And finally, especially from the southern part of Asia, like Indonesia or Malaysia or Singapore. So finally, she managed to go to Japan. But in Japan, it's not so easy life. So this is again when we did the interview, we bit confused, like how we to respond to her emotion, because in such a mixed feeling, crying, laughing, smiling, all this are like in the one moment, right? And it's again bring me like more deep curiosity about the spectrum of smile, and how smile it could be produced by the very hard life someone lives. And again, she had to taking care of Mr. Wang and Mr. Wang's suicide, and this continuation of suffering, it's always surrounding her. That's why she become like very close to fate. Right? So to know about this, I think we have to deal with pain, physical pain, but also the continuation of suffering in life. And for me, it's difficult because I have a lot of privilege as an artist, or come from a good support friends and family. But maybe for some people, life it's like really, it's very different. So, and in this level, smile, it's so kind of could be relief, because that's the only gift that we can produce, right? And cheap, but for some it's not easy. So for some people, of course, but people still also can smile in their heart, in their mind, not always come with face.
This reconnects also to one point that Renan mentioned, so the connection between the smile and fate. And I think that's so much there, also so much content. What is the relation with the smiling and fate, and the power of faith, perhaps, or different ideologies onto the person to induce, let's say, a smile, which could be a sign of revolt or a sign of peace, and so on. So if there are no more questions, I realize that we have approached already towards when we are coming to the hour. There is one new question. Let me see. Yeah, this is also from Lily, and it's, I think it's a good question, not so much related to the smile, but overall life under COVID circumstances, which you have also touched upon very clearly. How do you feel in doing this event on Zoom? And this is actually something that now we can share, because we've put so much effort in you know, having this happening. How does it feel for you as artists to convey your message through Zoom?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say thank you to you, Loredana, and also the other great teams who provide this technology for us.
In JWD Art Space also.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy process that you may, because again, we not get used to it. But this is the best tools at the moment right now to keep aware and to keep express ourselves. Yeah, but it's quite went well. I think it's far from perfect, but at least we can deliver what we want to say and to address.
Yeah.
And the most important part is not our graffiti, it's actually succeed in the audience mind. I hope.
But yeah, also I think for more than a year now, we are really familiar with this format, this online format. I don't know, somehow we have to think more or yeah, to explore more about this online platform. So actually today with this opportunity, we got a chance to explore it. So, but of course it's not easy. It's not just laptop and us, but it needs, it's, I don't know, it's similar to like TV productions. To be honest, a lot of cables. If you can see like behind our laptops, it's one assistant behind is all the time supporting us, and then yeah, a lot of recorder, handycams, power chargers, of course, a lot of and microphones. It's complicated, but it's fun. It's fun. I think yeah, more and more we can explore and optimize this platform. I think yeah.
Yeah, I call it mutilated by screen ratio.
Yeah, only that we cannot see you all. We can only see your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes if you turn off the camera, so we only see we don't see anyone. We just talking to ourselves in front of the laptops. And yeah, thank you. Our cats, they are protesting. I should feed them.
I think this is the silver lining of this pandemic, that it has forced us to think out of the box and come up with those digital presents. And I think eventually, you know, it is possible. And today we've engaged with a large audience. So actually, I would like to thank all the audience and the participants, not only, of course, the speakers, JWD again for organizing this, and the team that's been wonderful, but also the attendees. Thank you so much for being here. And on this note, I would like also to introduce the next event, since I have some of the audience attention. So this was our second event for the Artists in Conversation series, which runs alongside our exhibition Alive Beyond Boundaries, the Geography of Belonging. And our next event will be, if we can share the poster, JWD team, that would be wonderful. Next event will be Art and Video Games, and it will take place on August 28 at 3 p.m. Here we are. Thank you so much, Mary, for this. So the event will center on exhibition artist Hanin Pham, who will talk about his artistic practice from drawings and sculptures to video game, precisely. His recent video game, The Institute of Distance, will be live streamed while he will take us on a tour. And that will be another technological challenge, but we'll solve that. Hanin will be in conversation with guest speaker, Thai artist Nawin Noton, to explore alternative art channels in combination with underground gaming culture. With this, I would like once again to thank everybody. Please stay tuned with our activities. This is a way for all of us to keep going despite the challenges of this distance, really. Wish you all a wonderful weekend, reflecting more on the smile. Thank you, Tita, Irwan, and Renan. Thank you all. Stay tuned.
Thank
you all. Thank you,
Thank you,
Renan.
everyone.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Renan. Thank you, Loredana. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Nice weekend.